Welcome to another episode of a high level conversation with Bet on T. Craig. We're here to continue to make real estate simple, make sure that you are able to make informed decisions and understand that you are more than capable. And so that is what we're here to normalize within our community.
Amen. Amen. What's going on? Randy, how are you doing today?
Let me tell you something about that drive over here. That water.
Last
I,
last episode we were a little cold, now we're a little rainy. So, we're just doing it out here in Houston. Switching things up for you guys, switching up the room. So you guys can definitely let us know in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. Our goal is, of course, to bring you high level quality content that you guys are interested in consuming. So Randy mentioned Bet on T. Craig, the podcast. Our mission is to build strong communities through business and real estate ownership. We do believe that wealth is an abundance of all areas and being able to have good plenty. And so in order for us to be able to reach that has to be more than just in word, it also has to be in deed. And speaking of deeds, Randy, this week a common theme kept coming up, and
Mhm,
it was on the idea of focus
mhm.
and multitasking, and that being a myth. And so today I really kind of want us to just peel this onion, because I know there's a lot of thought about it. I know there's a lot of perspective, yet in a world that I believe is consumed with doing a lot of things mediocre, I think there's an opportunity for us to truly talk about what does focus actually mean.
Man. You know, when I was younger, I read the book like The Power of Now,
Hmm.
and at the time I didn't capitalize enough on what I was actually reading,
Hmm.
and it was saying that, imagine what life would look like if you were to focus on just one thing. Like if you were actually just put in as much effort into one task or deed and
Absolutely.
then watch what happens over a long enough period of time.
So why don't people do that? Because I believe that the key qualifier, Sharon, I love a good qualifier.
Mhm,
You said one thing,
mhm.
not two things, not four things, not. It's interesting because I've also been seeing multiple reels lately, and they have been talking about this idea of multiple streams of income. However, because we are not developing the streams, we're really just operating with poorly formed puddles of mud.
Mhm.
That none of them are actually producing what needs to happen for you to fund your perfect life. However, we have gotten consumed by this idea that having a lot of irons in the fire, as they say, is getting us closer.
Right.
Whereas you're saying one thing.
Mhm.
So what does one thing mean?
We can either think about whether it's what Gary Keller was talking about, it was the one thing such by doing so will make everything else easier or unnecessary.
For
Or
sure.
you can also look at the one thing saying that, okay, how am I able to take this opportunity or make this decision one of my better decisions, so that
Absolutely.
then I can capitalize and catapult my life off of what I chose to do.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that last part that you said? How can I capitalize on this decision and it leading to better decisions? Because again, I
Hmm.
think this becomes the options, right? We all have options in how we choose to operate our life.
Hmm.
Okay, so um, someone once told me that you can't have it all, know it all, and do it all. It's
Right.
just impossible. Like
Right.
there's just too many things for you to know. There's too many things for you to do. There's too many things for you to have. So you're going to have to get very clear on what do you want to know, what do you want to have, and what do you want to do in life.
Hmm.
So the first part is clarity, but I'm going to pass it to you just to kind of talk about just like why just one thing.
So the reason why I'm saying, at least for me, I believe that that one thing is so powerful is because it's so easy to get caught up in what's the next thing that I can do when you don't even have your initial thing built.
Yeah.
And I think I've experienced that in, I don't want to say the worst ways, but I've been so prone to, I can make money doing this, I can make money doing that. And so because I did that, it's like whether I made money or not, I think it also goes back, okay, to what is it that you want? And now what needs to happen for you actually to then create that? And
Yes.
so you asking yourself, okay, what is it that I actually want? And then you realize, well, half of the things I'm doing are not even going to get me there.
Absolutely, right? Because there's just an overflow of information. Steve Azell has a quote, says multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time.
Mm. So multitasking is the opportunity to screw up more
more
than
than one
one
thing
thing
at
at
a
a
time.
time.
And I think a
Okay.
lot of times, because it's interesting, like in our mind, like in your mind, you know the big picture. You're like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. If
Hmm.
I do this, then I can do that. And you see how it all connects. But to the outside, it looks like you just do a lot of things poorly.
Right.
And therefore, you cannot be counted on one thing.
Hmm.
And I see that a lot, especially when it comes to partnerships with others. Um, Generally speaking, I look for people that are solid in one thing that they are looking to do. They have chosen mastery, mastery over mediocrity, honestly,
Mm.
because, like I said, you don't need the pro and con, I think, of today's world that, we can pick up a mic, we can pick up a camera, we can use AI. We talked about that last show, is that it can present like you're good at a lot of things that you have not actually studied
Right.
and you're not actually fluid and familiar with. Um, and I'm curious on what the consequences of that. As a business owner, as a consumer, like what does that look like if we're really setting a narrative that mastery is not important?
What it looked like for me was every year, almost as if I'm picking up something new, and then before I knew it, it's like I'm not making money. And if I was making money, I know that I was not truly fulfilled. And then on top of that too, every single time you get in and out of something, when you come back into it, you're gonna have to build yourself back up.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to build up that level of skill, build up your level of reputation
yeah.
because oh, I thought you were just doing IT.
Oh man,
Oh, I thought you just was overseas for the military. I'm like, nah, I've been back in Houston.
and that's what I don't think people pay attention to is that again, in your mind, we talked about the first episode. Go back and look at the first episode. We talked about how in the moment you did not feel that you were not focused.
Hmm.
Everything that you were setting out to do, you had a plan for.
Hmm.
There was a reason, right? So we're not saying that lack of focus is a lack of intention. Lack of focus is not a lack of intention. Focus is focus, intention is intention. However, every time that you switch up, you have to reorient, right?
Right.
I do this exercise with the students, and I won't go through it, but basically, we time two different groups.
Hmm.
In the first group, they have to write a sentence, write the alphabet letters, and then write numbers 1 through 26.
Hmm.
And then they have to do one task, and then do the next task, and then do the next task. The second group, they have to write one word, write one letter, write one number, write the next word, write the next letter, write the next number. I am having a hard time even explaining the exercise. And yet, in that moment, what students recognize is that it is easier, the first group, to write the sentence and then write the alphabet and then write the numbers than it
Hmm.
is switching between each task because your mind is literally having to switch. Okay, we're talking, what's the sentence? Okay, what letter am I on? And that's what it looks like in a lot of people's professional lives. Is that, like you said, well, I thought you were doing IT. What happened to the military? I
Hmm.
thought you was going to be a notary. Oh, you got to law school? Oh, you're doing real estate now. Nah, you're going to be a nurse. And it, and not, and what's concerning is that it's not even diversifying in one field. It's literally jumping
From field to field.
to different industries of thought.
Hmm.
So you never actually become a thought leader, just a thought wanderer, thought a thought follower, a
I
thought
mean,
ping
and
pong.
that's why it depends on, and that's why it also goes back to what is it that you want? Because now, in even in the context of the conversation, it literally seems as if it's a roller coaster,
Hmm.
where it's like you have the lows you didn't expect, you thought you knew what you wanted, then you go and you're like, wow, I'm seeing a little bit of success, but I want to do this because I feel or I believe I've mastered this. Then you go down below, then you have to reiterate and reinvent yourself, recreate yourself.
Mm.
It did it really serve you at the highest level?
One of the things when we talk about knowing yourself and what do you want to do, it's very big that we talk about purpose and mission on the show. And we'll probably flesh it out in a future episode. And yet, I've shared it with you, Randy, that your personal mission statement, your purpose in life, it serves like a GPS, just like on your phone.
Hmm.
That if I put in, okay, I'm from here to the office, I'm going to put it in, and the phone is going to tell me which way to go. Now, a pet peeve of mine when I'm driving is when people tell me, no, go this way. I'm following the blue line.
Hmm.
The blue line says go this way. And then you got somebody that's, I know a shortcut. Then you
Mhm.
do that shortcut, and now the road is closed.
Mhm.
Now I got to come back to the same blue line that Siri told me to follow when we started. And I think that happens a lot in our lives. We have what we want, who we believe we are, and why we're here to do what we do. You know,
Mhm.
they ask me what I do and who I do it for. That is a personal mission. This is what I do. This is why we do it.
Mhm.
I do real estate. I do it because I believe our community has a gap. So, as I got clearer on my personal mission, it served as a compass and a guide of what do I say yes to and what do I say no to.
Mhm.
Because everybody's going to present yourself with an opportunity. And to the person that doesn't know what they want in life, every carrot looks like an opportunity,
Very true.
right? Like
Very
anybody can
true.
come to you and be like, I see what you're doing, but I'm
But
selling
yeah.
sneakers right now.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I got a plug. And if you just sell these sneakers, you can
You
flip it
can
three
make
times,
yeah.
right? Now you distracted and you off in the world selling sneakers somewhere. I don't know. I don't know what happened to T. Craig. They were selling houses. Now they selling.
No, but that's how it is though. It's very easy to get distracted though because you are presented somebody sees my story has always been that somebody saw potential in me. Someone saw that I had more than enough capacity to perform at relatively a high level based off of mediocrity and others. Let's just say that. And so what would then happen is they present me with an opportunity. And so because of where I was at currently in my life, it seemed like an opportunity because why? I wanted to solve the problem of money.
Mhm.
But because I was doing it in such a way that led to distraction, I made less money.
That's interesting.
So because I diverted from actually choosing mastery, I suffered the consequences tenfold.
So a lot of people will disagree with this though, because there is a myth to multitasking and the idea that you can actually excel at it. You see,
Okay.
people put it on their resume, great at multitasking. Now, I once had a conversation with somebody that I admire in the C suite corporate, and they say, when I see that on a resume, I find somebody that's not going to get tasks done.
Mhm.
Like it was actually a red flag, but they were presenting it in their resume like this is a skill set of mine, multitasking. So, what about that? Like, what's the myth and the fact that people may be blind to?
I think to carry on to that, it goes back to Parkinson's law, meaning your work will expand to fill the time allotted for its completion.
Hmm.
So, and I think the simplest way that I've come to learn about this is that if I give you a task and really the task could be completed in 2 hours,
Hmm.
but because I said, hey, I need this by the end of the week, you say, okay, I got a week.
Yeah.
I gave you this task on Monday because I said I need it at the end of the week. You said, okay, cool. I have until Friday.
Yes.
When really the task is only going to take you 2 hours of focused effort.
So maybe the issue is in a few things. Number one, the power of focus, and then setting a deadline. We mentioned that all goals have deadlines. Now, it is okay to be flexible in
Hmm.
that, right? I want to be a millionaire by 35. Okay, you're 36. It's not the end of the world.
Hmm.
However, that goal does give you something to strive for because now the purpose of a plan, first of all, is only to determine the actions that are necessary.
Right.
Everybody has a plan till they get hit in the face.
Hmm.
Muhammad Ali said that, right? So you can go up, you can do all the prep. I know you box, Randy. I don't
That might have been
box.
Mike Tyson. That might have been Mike Tyson. The
What?
quote,
Is it Mike Tyson?
everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face. So
I
I
don't box.
no, I just now I feel like I look it
I
up because
pity the fool.
I
What did he
don't
say? What's that? I pity that's
oh
Mr. T.
that's okay, yeah, that's
That's
Mr. What?
I
But
don't
to the
I don't
point,
talk about boxing.
to the point of you're right that you have a plan and it's meant for you to execute the plan. And the second that you don't or you deviate from the plan, you will reap the consequences.
And you have
So
to tweak, right?
mhm,
Deviate does not mean not tweak, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? So
mhm,
even with this show, you guys are live watchers of Randy and I failing our way forward in this podcast, right?
mhm.
Like we always promise to keep it a buck with you, right? We're not like this is not CNN, right? And me and Randy are not yet. We are not yet national correspondents, and yet we are learning, right? In every episode, we're making tweaks and adjustments, but the plan is still the same. The plan is still to bring you guys a high level conversation every week that you guys can count on. Everything else in the background is just nuances. And so when you're talking about the plan for your life or your plan for your goal, one, have you written it down?
Mm,
Have you shared it with somebody?
mhm.
And then are you being held accountable to the things that you said that you wanted to do?
Right,
I
right.
think that's important too. Like any you can also write down goals and never look at it again. It's January, it's vision board season. That's great, babe. Now what?
What happens next?
What happens next?
And I think that's why, like, I remember when I was about 19 or 20, I came across a quote that said just massive execution. Just
Mm-hmm.
massive execution.
Yeah.
Like if you just keep doing the work. Because it's so easy to be like, man, this is hard. I don't like it. And then we deviate. And then you deviate or you not even you change, you course correct. You say, man, this is harder than I thought it would be. And then I'm gonna go do something else. And then such by doing so, what if leaning into that discomfort was what you needed to then propel you to where you actually needed to go?
Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his book Outliers the power of 10,000 hours, that it really requires 10,000 hours in any one thing to develop mastery
Mhm.
in a subject. Of course, I say, well, how long is 10,000 hours? That's a lot. That's more than a day. Um, Assuming that you were committed like you were a job, 40-hour work week to
Yeah.
your one thing,
Mhm.
it would take you 4.8 years to accumulate your 10,000 hours. That's if you're putting in 40 real hours, traceable, trackable hours to what it is that you say you want.
Mhm.
The question is, are you putting in 40 hours?
And the thing is too and that's probably why I'm so like, man, I started to see I started to see returns at a larger scale when I was dialing from whether it be 8 a.m. to like almost like 6 p.m.
Yeah,
in one day.
yeah.
So then it was like mastery kind of just came.
Because it's focus,
Yeah.
right? And that's something now, you know, and you're speaking to a role that you had probably when you first got your license, 2019 ish. And here you are 4 years later. And I always often refer to you like, hey, this is your skill set. You're a sharpshooter in this arena, right? But that comes after hours of mastery. And
Mhm.
just imagine, you're probably still, if you
Yeah.
actually tracked
I'm
it,
still
nowhere
not.
close
Yeah.
10,000, right? You may
Mhm.
have a good two or three
Mhm.
thousand hours,
Mhm.
maybe, right? And so I think that's just something that, definitely I wanted to introduce in just this going forward, especially at the beginning of the year, is what are you actually focused on? And how do you know? Like what evidence can you show someone to say, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm working on. And not so that you can show somebody, right? It's not necessarily so you have the receipt for somebody else, but it's the receipt for yourself to where you can say, like when we have moments in business where I'm like, man, God, Lord, you said exceeding and abundantly more. This ain't looking exceedingly
This
or abundant,
man,
right?
not yet.
Yet,
Yeah.
but then I can go back and I can look at the evidence and I can say, well, God, we're talking to the people. We're having the
Mhm.
conversations. We're going on the appointments, right? So then I think it actually reaffirms your faith when you can look back and see what you've done.
Right. Or just continuing to put in the work. I think it's not for the weak. I always say that business is not for the weak. Somebody actually asked me today. It's not off topic, but I think it's almost in alignment of what we're talking about in the moments of showing yourself grace
Mm-hmm.
within business. And is it necessary or is it important? And I said, while it may not be necessary, I do believe it's important
Mm-hmm.
that there may come certain times where you do need to show yourself grace because it's not going to be easy. That is the expectation. That now probably needs to be the expectation that business is not sweet. That
Yeah.
just be this is not it's not and also it could just depend on the industry that you chose. Because for some people, oh, it's e-commerce, you run a certain amount of ads behind it, you're going to see profit. In other businesses, it's not as cookie cutter. It doesn't mean you still can't maximize
Even,
it.
but even that,
Mhm.
even in e-commerce, for example, it's still hard,
It's still
right?
hard though.
It's
It's
like
not
it's
easy.
like anybody can have a hot week, but can you make a business
Can you
out of it,
sustain it?
right?
Can you
So for
sustain it?
example, when you are self-employed and ready to buy a home, you have to have 2 years of income taxes, right? 2 years of profitable income taxes. That's why we're always saying don't claim a bunch of deductions, because when you are ready to buy a home, the lender is going to look at your business statements, right? So if you don't have longevity in your business, or you're treating it like a side hustle or something like that, it will impact your ability to buy a home off the business. Now, you may have a job and you can qualify on your W 2. But
Hmm.
if you actually are saying, and I think that's the thing, people say, well, I don't want, the only reason why an industry looks easy is because somebody has gone through enough challenges and tribulations to where they make it look easy,
Hmm.
right? It's like a duck. Like a duck, you don't see them. You see them on a lake, they're just kind of gliding, but underneath the water, their feet are like flipping like that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You don't see that with promoter, with any professionals,
Right.
because chances are they don't gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you it's not easy, but they're not gonna tell you what do they mean by that. And then you get in 2 years in and you're like,
So
oh, so
take
this is what Chase and Randy was talking about.
you start having your coming to Jesus moment. And I
Yeah,
think it's like it comes back to we thought it was you what expectation did you have around the business or the industry you chose to get into?
yeah.
And what gave you that? What incentivized you to even start the business in the first place?
It goes back to the big why, right? What problem are you trying to solve? And understand that the problem you're trying to solve may not be solved by the end of your lifetime. So, for example, if I'm saying we're going to build strong communities till through real estate and business ownership, there's never going to be a day where I'm gonna wake up and be like,
It's done.
they got it, going to Disneyland. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's never going to happen. Hopefully, you have a mission for your life that propels you and motivates you because you know it can't get done. That you have something so big that you say, who do I have to become in order to do this thing? So that brings me to my next thought. When we talk about like the one thing, and this idea that focus is a matter of deciding what things you're not going to do.
Hmm.
So I think we have all heard of the to-do list, and we build it out and we add stuff to it and it's like, I saw my list. But what about a to don't list?
Mm. Yeah, what are the tasks or what are the things that I need to not be doing?
Yeah, like what if we actually looked at our week behind us? So the week that just passed, hopefully you have a calendar, right? That you're tracking your activities and your meetings and your appointments. They say, you want to show me what's important to a person? Show me their checkbook and show me their calendar. So we don't have checkbooks, but they say you can show your checkbook, your bank statements, your calendar, and your call log. Tell you
Mm,
everything you need to know about a person.
mm.
So if you were to look back into your calendar, and let's just go back a week, what are some things where you're like, I need to stop doing this because every time I say yes to this, I'm saying no to something else, and more than likely it is my one thing.
Mhm.
So what does that look like for you?
I think it's I don't want to it's meetings with other like companies that I'm like I don't think I'll actually partake in this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
actually understanding. I was like, no, it's not for me.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. It's not nothing to what it is you have going on. I just know that it's not for me.
It's so interesting because we actually, a lot of our examples come from real life conversations that happened during the week. Like our goal is to really connect this to real life and what people are sharing with us. And we did. We had a meeting. Somebody saw our content
Hmm.
internationally. Actually, shout out,
Hmm.
and we're inspired to reach out. And we always say it's very easy to reach out with us. Like get on our calendar,
Hmm.
and presented the opportunity. This would be great. And Randy, I really admire you for that moment because you just frankly said this isn't in alignment with what we're working on right now.
I'd rather be honest.
I was like, oh.
I'd rather be honest. I'd rather be honest because I know what it feels like to be distracted. It's painful. It's literally painful. Maybe not physically, but mentally, because it compounds in such a way that you're like, this is insane.
But how did you develop the skill of saying no? Because listen, y'all, listen. I don't have I don't have the clip to like put right here, but literally, Randy was like, "I appreciate your time. This is not something that we're focused on right now."
Yeah.
he just be quiet. Like I just be ready to turn my whole camera off because I'd be like, oh my God. Right. Like I understand. Again, we already know the difference in personalities between Randy and Chase. And so Chase, you're trying to find a nice soft way to let folks down. And maybe you're like me. Maybe it's just me.
No.
But if you are that type of person that has a hard time saying no to people that are calling you to
Mhm,
serve or perform or do something,
mhm.
whatever it may be, how do you develop the no? That's good.
I think
Developing the
how
no.
do you develop no? I think how do you develop the power of saying no to opportunities that are not for you? Honestly, it goes back to what is it that you want? And if and the clearer that you get,
But I want opportunities.
the opportunity is right in front of you the whole time. It's been there the whole time.
That's
And
true
you
though.
allowed and I allowed, not you, because I'm not there yet to be saying you. I won't say that. I have allowed people to present their opportunities to me, and I was like, "Oh wow, I get it, I get it, I get it." And it's like, this is serving you at a higher level than it's serving me.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's easier now for me to say no because you're maybe wanting to put me on, but there's also a learning curve to what it is that I'm looking to say yes to,
Okay.
considering that you've been doing this for a year or two. So therefore, where you're currently at is not where I'll magically just fall into place with.
Yeah. I
Because
think
now, so if it's not an additional service to add on to the business, it's going to be a distraction.
it's going to be a distraction. And I often talk about like you can be very well intentioned. So in 2022, 20, what is four now? So in 2022, I made a decision to double down on T Craig. We talk about bet on T Craig. Well, if you a blackjack girl like me, you know what it means to double down. And that means like you listen, splitting it up. I believe we can do this. So when we started having conversations and bringing you on the team. But before I could do any of that, I had to say no to a lot of areas in my life
Mhm,
that I was serving other people. I'll just be very transparent about with you guys. So, yes, we are in real estate to serve that greater at large Houston community, and no matter where you are around the world. Yet I have a special affinity for our culture, for
mhm,
our community. Um, Men, women, boys, girls look just like us, and being able to show them that you can do this. You can own real estate, you can own a business. This is the pathway to get it. And I noticed that in all of my activities and volunteering and stuff like that, it always ends up being this gap of connecting to us.
mhm.
It's kind of like the for us by us, right? It was a gap in connection because I was going through all these different third parties. And then one day I said, okay, first of all, stop it because you run a business.
Mhm.
So you're going to have to qualify your volunteerism, right? That's the first thing. Second of all, I had to say, what does that actually look like to take that same energy, that same hustle, the same focus, and actually pour it into your baby? Right? Could you
Right.
imagine me like not feeding my child, but saying, "Oh, Randy, let me feed your daughter." Randy don't have children. I don't have children. But imagine if I did that. If I didn't feed my family because it was like, "You guys are hungry." Y'all
Mhm,
think I was crazy. But a
mhm.
lot of times we do that with our purpose. We won't feed our purpose, but we'll be quick to go pour into somebody else's.
But we do that with our attention. So we're paying attention to what other people have, but we're not paying ourselves attention. So
Yeah.
it's like pay attention to what's paying you. So
Yeah.
any new opportunity I join, there's no instant gratification.
I think that's when you start to fall in love with the process. A lot of times. So
That's it.
this is a real,
Mhm,
real question that I ask Randy all the time, and I say, "What did you win? What did you learn? And what did you do well?" And my goal is to ask you every week. Sometimes I forget, but the goal is to ask you every week because a lot of this. Number one, let me go back. You've been that dude, Randy. You've been that dude, Chasey. You've been that girl. But you've always had the sauce. It's like in The Wizard of Oz. What did Glinda Goodwitch say to Dorothy? She said, "You had the power all along. All you had to do was click your heels. You could have been went home."
mhm.
But she went to go see if the Tin Man could help her and the Scarecrow could help her and this big imaginary whiz could help her. She had the power all along. So your answer is within you. You have to believe that heart of hearts, that if you're true about what it is that you say you want to do, you've had the power all along. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I think is just being, I actually probably forgot the second thing. So you can
No, I was looking actually for the quote that, because you were mentioning that you've been that dude the whole time, you've been that girl the whole time. It goes back to the quote, and I wanted to get the actual name drop of that. Our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure.
that's Marianne Williamson. Great quote,
Right.
right?
And so it is just reaffirming that the second that you realize I've had more than enough capacity to perform at a high level, I'm not worried about the next opportunity. I need to first build this business to the point where it can sustain my life and then some. And then any other opportunity that comes into effect, I already have my one stake. I already
Mm,
have my one business.
you have
Until I
that.
have
Yeah.
that, what sense does it make for me to be worried about multiple streams of income? I don't even have one that's paying me at scale. We're not talking about, oh, I
Because
made a
really
couple money. No, like at scale,
a
consistently too.
a business exists without you. And this is
And
where I'm at. This is
that's,
where I'm
yeah,
at right now,
yeah.
right? Is that when I talk about like goals, so a few things when we talked about like the streams and going deep, they said depth versus breadth, right? Are you going deep in what you're understanding, or are you just going wide and you just know a little bit about everything, right?
Hmm.
Like I always say that's dangerous because yeah, you heard this clip, but there was a whole video. There was a whole lesson, right? Even the things that we teach you, like these usually come from 8, 12, 3-day master class workshops that we're just able to condense and put into an hour. And so, number one, are you developing a business in a way that it can run without you? And I'm not there yet, right? Like I still have to show up every day at T Craig. You have to show up every day at T Craig so that way we can do it. Success is okay, now this thing is running on its own. Let me start the next venture.
Very true. And I think that that's why it's levels to the game. And we've seen many role models or do that.
Mhm.
It's very real.
Mhm.
It's very real. And so I think that goes back to focus. That goes back to, was that person multitasking? I don't think so. Because when did they have time to multitask if they were building such a business that other people were going to operate in?
And that's why a lot of times you'll see people locked in, right? And it becomes a joke to other people, like, here they go talking about that real estate. Watch out now, they gonna hit
No,
you
no,
up.
no,
But
no. It's not
it's
even talking about real. I'm talking about today. Today at the business meeting, it was about once you already know the team. It was like $260,000 in 1 month. One team, one team. But the depth on the team, nothing to play with. And the only way that something like that is built and sustained is that you gotta cut the fat. And
yeah,
as I'm speaking to the camera, I'm really speaking to myself.
yeah.
That anything that's not serving at the highest level for the business, I'm distracted. I'm cheating myself.
Yeah, it's a reckoning, I think it's a reckoning. You know, a lot of times we get excited about truth tellers and we don't have that same level of truth with ourselves. And
Very
the
true.
fact of matter is that a lot of us are just distracted. Even the focused ones are still distracted because there's meat, there's fat, as you say,
Cut the
that
fat.
needs to be trimmed, and it can show up on your team, right? There's probably talent that's holding you back. It could show up in the tools that you're using. We talked about budget. So recently we had
Money
uh,
master the
a
basics.
mastering the basics of money class, and we talked about really the principles of money and what gets people caught up. And I know I joke about trips a lot, but it's not the trips. Trips are not why people don't
Mm-mm.
have the money that they need to do the things that they want. It actually is the small people always say Starbucks ain't gonna save you. It's not about Starbucks. It's about a habit. And are you paying attention? Small holes sink ships, right? And so when you go through your bank statements, what is the fat in your bank statements that you actually need to be cutting? I always say go through it with 3 highlighters, a green, a yellow, and a red, and find out what am I paying for that I didn't even know I still had? What's that subscription? What is that uh membership that I've never used and forgot all about it, and they're taxing you 9.99 or 27.99 because what what the world knows that you don't pay attention to is that if they can get you on a subscription, they know you'll forget about it and they will siphon money out of your bank account
Hmm.
monthly, and you authorized it because we're too lazy to have a moment of truth with ourselves and say, this is not producing the return I
Hmm.
expected.
Hmm. I mean, I think if we think about it, right, for the Planet Fitness business,
The what?
Planet Fitness. So what I've learned or come to see is how, so within the business model, they're expecting people to not go to the gym, but we're like $10 a month ain't killing me. That's fine. And they're banking on the fact that $10 a month is not killing you. It's not breaking you off. And so because of that, oh, let's build $1 billion industry because, or build well, $1 billion business because people are not going to be so worried about $10 a month.
It sucks to get an overdraft because you didn't have $10.
Man,
That $10 now costs you $40. That's what I mean. Things
very true.
compound, our
Yeah.
choices compound, right? So
Mhm.
no, $10 probably won't bank you, but if you break you. But if you take the $10 plus the $20 on Starbucks plus the five different membership streaming services that you have, that's $60, right? You, they say there's this meme that goes around: if you want to blow $10,000, spend 27 every day. Waste $27 a day,
Mm,
right? So okay, so where are your $27 going for? Because $10,000, that's a down payment on your house.
facts.
We don't we do not have an absence of money in our community. We are a very wealthy community. People cite it and talk about the trillions of dollars of spending power that we had. Our Achilles heel is that we're not conscious about where our money is going. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. A lot of us just wondering where our money went because we know we make the money. You know we make the money.
Hmm.
It's not the job.
Hmm.
It's not the
You don't
hustle.
touch the money.
But then you look back and you're like, dang,
Where did it
what do
go?
you mean I spent $3,000 at McDonald's? What are you talking about?
$3,000 at
I,
McDonald's.
that's a
That's a
confession.
grocery.
A confession from me because I have a Mint app and it would tell me.
Then you'll see it and be like, "Dang, this is really me."
Talk about come to Jesus.
Hmm. Hmm.
Man, never looked at McDonald's the same. I've been mad ever
Nah,
since.
them McFlurries
It's
over a long enough period of time, you start realizing I got bigger fish to fry.
so.
So
Go ahead.
we're also going to talk about in maximizing and capitalizing on the one thing and understanding. I think the question, that's why I think questions are so powerful because it goes back to what is the one thing such by doing so will make everything else easier or unnecessary.
Can you explain that? Like, because I know they're not seeing it.
So,
They're not
okay,
seeing the
so
quote. So
so
explain the quote, break it down.
so visually, right? If you were to think about what is the one thing such by doing so make everything easier or unnecessary, I attribute it, let's say for fitness, or let's just say for fitness sake, right? Right? For health and wellness. Okay. So when someone says, I need to get in shape, what does that actually look like? Right? Because now the thing is that you do need to get in shape, but now also, what is the one thing that you probably need to do that'll make getting in shape easier? More than likely, stop purchasing things that are dead calories, dead weight. And then you'll
Okay.
see, okay, I'm starting to eat healthier, I'm starting to eat cleaner. Oh, I'm actually getting healthier.
Yeah.
Without you, it was very maybe it was subtle, maybe it was very painful, but over time you're like, wow, I'm actually getting healthier in real time. So the same can be said, okay, by me simply going to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, I'm getting healthier. Boom.
Yeah.
And such by doing so, I'm now healthier. Now, if you want to attribute that to money, I would say, okay, what is the one thing that I need to solve within the business to then create an overflow of leads, such by doing so, able to hire myself out for
Hmm.
someone else to do the job.
Absolutely.
By me creating that problem,
Right.
now someone else is going to take over and do my spot so then I can focus on something else.
Absolutely. And I think that's how we say you earn your way out of the business.
Hmm.
So, talking about business, something else that we've been getting a lot of inquiries about is starting a real estate business.
Hmm.
Want to join T Crate? I'm gonna give you
This is going to be the free sauce that
we're
we
gonna tell you how to do
researched.
it. We're gonna share with you guys just the real estate industry, what it has been like. We're gonna actually give you guys two different perspectives. Like I said, I got my real estate license in 2010. So the process and even the way we did real estate was a lot different. And then Randy, you got your license uh
June of 2019.
June of 2019. So let's first just talk about the basics. and getting your real estate license. Here's what you need to know if you are looking to become a realtor.
So this is per the Texas Real Estate Commission. So when you hear us say TREC, that's what it stands for, right?
Mhm.
Says citizen of the US or lawfully admittance alien, 18 years of age or older, and then you have to meet TREC's qualifications for honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity,
Mhm.
right? And so one of the biggest things that we've come to notice is that now you have to do 180 continuate well classroom hours. 180 classroom hours
Now,
of the
this will
yeah of
often
the
show up in the form of about 5 to 7 classes, and that depends on
mhm.
if you have a degree, a college degree. Some of those hours will count, but this is going to shake out to maybe about 5 to 7 uh, real estate course related work.
Now this is really getting into the nuances, but we're here to give it to you straight so you're not confused and understand what it is that you're looking to do. This was pulled off of the website Trek. You can look it up as well. It's principles 1 and 2. Rich is 60 hours in total, right? 30 hours for principle 1, 30 hours for principle 2. Law of agency is 30 hours. Law of contracts is 30 hours. Promulgated contract forms, 30 hours. And then real estate finance, 30 hours.
Right. So it's not something, and so we talk about this a lot, just the work going into it. And I'm gonna give some perspective, right? We talked about going um, deep into what it means to focus and what it means to multitask. Now, here's the thing. I know that Randy spoon-fed that information to you, what classes you need to take and what the name of it is. But I think we also have to talk about due diligence as a business owner,
Right.
right?
If you really wanted to do
Because
it. Yeah.
it is your responsibility. We talked about it on the show. Your knowledge is your responsibility. You may look up and find a show like this, and they're going to give you guys examples and what to expect. But you have to do what's necessary to get what you want. It's fascinating to me because, like I said, when I got my real estate license, I didn't ask a bunch of people. I just got on the website, said, "How you get your real estate license?" And I did it. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't this thing that people needed to stay on me about or motivate me about, or hey, you said you was gonna get your license. I know it's 6 months later, 12 months later. What's up with that? It was not it. And I think especially now, because real estate is harder in the aspect that you have a lot of venture capital companies, you have a lot of big money tech. When I got my real estate license, companies like Zillow did not exist. Companies like iBuyer did not exist. You did not have all of these disruptors in the industry that were attempting to go direct to consumer. I,
Right.
I say a lot of the reasons that I think we forget the history of realtors is because people lack representation.
Mhm.
They lack truly having a fiduciary that was going to put their needs above their own. And even with these companies and this big money and Wall Street money and all the stuff that's happening around us, come on, y'all. We know what it is. Like they not necessary. I'm not here to speak. Listen, don't tag me, don't add me. Not speaking negatively against any company. However, you know the difference when you work with somebody that's looking out for your best interest,
Mhm.
right? So part of that responsibility means you doing your due diligence in what it actually takes to thrive in this industry.
And the thing is too is that you're going to be tested. You're going to be tested. It's not we're not even talking about the actual final exam that you'll take, but you're actually going to be tested. Why? Because there are distractions and life will happen. It's not when.
Yeah.
Life will happen. That's I'm not I one of the quotes that a good friend Lionheart told me was that no one is exempt from adversity.
Yeah.
No one is exempt from life. And so when these distractions do arise, you will then truly be tested
They
that
say
how bad do you really want it?
if you live long enough, you'll experience both sides of the spectrum. You'll be rich and you'll be poor. You'll be sick and you'll be healthy, right? Nobody's exempt, right? Give God enough time. Live long enough. Ain't that what they say?
Mm,
Keep on living and you'll be able to see. So, really, I just wanted us to be able to talk about because the truth of the matter is, you know, we are approached about joining real estate, joining the team, and we are happy to have those conversations. Let me first say that, right?
mhm,
And also, we ain't got time to babysit you. You know what I'm saying? And I think
mhm,
that is the first telltale sign in how long does it take somebody to do what they said that they wanted to do. We not knocking on your door. We not calling you on your phone. right? So if you reach out with this interest because it looks good, because I'm telling you right now, if you get into real estate because it looks good and you like to walk and look around houses and look at pretty houses, baby, that is only going to be so long. Wait till somebody asks to go see a house in Humble and then Spring and down in Pearland and oh, can we go to Sugarland? You're going to see real quick that you don't like looking at houses like that, right?
No, for
So,
real. No, for real. I mean, and sometimes, we talk about, how far you willing to go for customer service. And so I've definitely been guilty of this, of driving from whether it be Katy, Sugarland, Sienna. Then I'm like, I spent all day with this one client.
yeah,
So when did I actually have time to lead generate? But the thing is that you said different ends of the spectrum. It comes back to, yes, different times as far as when entering the market of real estate or becoming a realtor. I think let's normalize the conversation around that. It goes back to also choosing your counsel wisely, ironically,
yeah,
because
definitely.
because you're gonna have to choose a brokerage, right? That no, there's no bias here, because at the end of the day, people will do whatever I feel as if it's in their best interest. I
Hmm.
didn't study, psychology, but to say that, are we not selfish by
Yeah,
nature?
we're so
They're just
we're
selfish
selfish
beings.
human beings.
So therefore, you're going
Everything.
to do what
They
you
said
want to do.
everybody's radio dial is tuned into the same station. I don't know.
What's in my best
What's in it
interest?
for
Yeah,
me?
what's in it for me?
That is every
What's in it for
what's
me?
in
Yeah.
it for me. So
Hmm.
whatever WIFM, what's in it for
For me.
me? Whatever, write it down. It's
But here, and so the thing is, right? You're gonna choose your brokerage, right? Then you're gonna choose if you want to be on a team, you want to be solo. But now the thing is that you can succeed whatever brokerage you choose, whatever team or solo agent whatever route you choose. I think it comes back to then what type of business do you want to build, and you can go far by yourself, or you go further together.
yeah.
And so at the end of the day, life is all about choices. And so who do you want to be, and what does that actually look like for you?
That's really where we're at. We're really on the further together.
Because because I was guilty of it. I was like, screw all this. I'm not going to a big brokerage. I'm gonna go to a smaller brokerage. I'm gonna be by myself. And then I said, yep, I don't like this. Let me go do IT. I went to IT. I made my money. I made my money. I did. I pocketed it. I was like, I don't really like IT. Let me go on a deployment. Went on a deployment. Went overseas for the military. Came back. I said, ooh, let me go back to my old brokerage. I was like, I need to become a millionaire real estate agent. Tell me what I got to do. I was doing it. I was posting consistently, got a few leads here and there. It just still wasn't enough.
Hmm.
And then I had a conversation. I really had a conversation with myself, and I really had a conversation. I was asking for wisdom. I was truly praying for wisdom, because I was like, this is annoying. And I was praying for wisdom because we said King Solomon prayed for wisdom. Why? Because with wisdom I can then create wealth.
Hmm.
So I needed wisdom. I said I prayed for wisdom, and then Chase appeared, and I said, okay, well, let me take heed to what I prayed for. I'm giving you all this as context because you will need to make a decision. And the only reason I'm saying you is because at the end of the day, you have to decide if you want to become a realtor or not. It's not light work. It's there's
Yeah.
We can teach you how to get leads, we can teach you how to make business happen, but know that every deal is not the same. And so it's earned. It's still earned.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
still earned.
are you willing to pay your dues?
And I think that's just it. And speaking of dues, the dues are a lot, right? So
They add up.
I don't know
Is
what.
that they add up? Because in one day, charge it was like 650. Gone. Gone. I don't care if you close the deal today or not. Gone out of there.
That's just for the right. That is just for the right.
Out of
And
there.
so when we talk about one of the
Respectfully.
reasons why we wanted to talk about multitasking and your one thing, and even getting in a career in real estate, is because everything is possible. Not everything is permissible, or everything that's permissible is not beneficial, right? So you're going to have to decide on, do I have the bandwidth, right? Sometimes it's not a no, it's just a not right now, because there are other things in your life that are taking higher priority. And so it actually reminds me of a quote, is that oh, what did they say? They said the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities, right?
Mhm.
Is your calendar telling you what to do, or just like your budget, are you telling your time where to go? Or is every time somebody calls you and every time somebody picks up, hey, can you do this meeting, and sends you a text, do you just squirrel off like a, you know, squirrel and changing direction and
Hmm.
focus and the things that you need to do so that way you can accomplish what's important for your life, securing your own mass first. You don't have time for it, right? So scheduling our priorities and that 20% is, I think, highly, it's a learned skill.
Oh, I remember when like the first few weeks of me having my license, and it was one of like the newer agents. But one thing that newer agent knew, he said the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
That it's 20% of the actual effort and work that you're putting in generates the 80%. And if there is one, it doesn't matter if you choose to do real estate or not. The 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, is essential.
Yeah.
It does not matter what you choose to do in your life.
And again, that's Pareto's principle. And
Yes, the 80
that's a
20 rule.
law. A lot of times we introduce laws on this show because I believe that one, we are governed by them. Whether you know them or not, we are governed by them, right? We're not speaking just opinion. Some of it is opinion, and also some of these are just tangible laws that you can look up and Google. And this is how people operate their lives at a high level. So if you knew that 20% of your actions create 80% of your results, what actions would you focus on? If you knew that 20% of your headaches, or 20% of your headache, 20, what did they say? 20% of the 80% of your headaches come from 20% of
20%.
the people that you know.
Hmm.
How much more would you remove those 20% so that way you didn't have the headaches, right? 80% of your financial trouble comes from 20% of your spending habits, right? It's all connected. So the important thing is to get clarity on your 20%. And we like to call them your big rocks. What are your big rocks that you need to focus on? So that way you can live this is all about you living the life that you say that you want. So I would encourage you to write it down, put it, really spend some time, spend some energy on this. Don't just bypass it. Don't just look at it. And then I did have 3 ways though that you could focus on the one thing. So we talked about expertise and mastery, right? So making sure that you get clear in what it is that you want to specialize in. I would say go from wide to narrow,
Hmm.
right? So if you say real estate, what kind of real estate? Where? Right? Randy, we talk about this all the time. I do residential, Randy does commercial, right? That's a focus, right? Randy talked about driving all around Houston. Houston's big. So, what area do you want to focus in? Do you want to focus in townhomes or condos, right? Getting that level of high expertise so that way you do become the go to, right? You are able to now you're able to go deep and build out this thing. It takes a life of its own because you were focused on one thing versus trying to do all things.
And to add to your point, what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? That doesn't matter if it's for your spiritual life, your finances, your business, your job, relationships, personal life, physical health. It's all interconnected.
And you well, I'll put this in the description, but those areas, read those areas back again, Randy. So you should
Physical,
ask yourself this
mental,
question for
health,
each one of these areas
business,
in your life.
job, finances.
Say it again because I was talking.
No, I got you. These are the areas to focus on. Spiritual life, your physical, personal life, relationships, your job, business, and your finances.
Right? So an example could be, what's the one thing that I'm going to do that make everything easier and necessary? In my finances, I'm going to look at my budget every week. I'm going to print out my bank statements
That
once a
net
month.
worth tracker.
You can do something like that, right? If you're talking about your relationships, I'm going to schedule friend dates. I'm going to schedule date night on my calendar. So that way it's not something that just happens. It's something I'm very intentional about. You're talking about your spiritual life. I'm going to check out this place of worship, or I'm going to invest into reading whatever you follow, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or whatever it is that you believe in. I'm going to spend 30 minutes meditating, right? It's one thing that'll make everything else easier or necessary. And then being a continuous learner, right? It never stops. You're never going to reach a pinnacle of I don't know it anymore. I don't need to know anymore. And a lot of times I think what happens is that we get these degrees, we go to these colleges, we get these certifications, and it's like nobody can tell you nothing no more. Oh, I've been doing this for such and such years. I already got my degree in that. I got my certification in that. But life has evolved. right? The hardest part right now with older generation is adapting to new technology, right? So if you're not continuously learning and evolving, you are going to shortcut and kneecap yourself, right? So being a continuous learner.
And just to caveat and add to that is the Pareto's principle, right? It turns out is as real as the law of gravity, and yet most people fail to see the gravity of it. It's not just a theory, it is a probable, predictable certainty of nature and one of the greatest productivity truths ever discovered. Richard Koch. So in the book, The 80/20 Principle, is that the 80/20 principle asserts that a minority of causes, inputs, or effort usually lead to a majority of the results, outputs, or rewards. In other words, in the world of success, things aren't equal. A small amount of causes creates most of the results. Just the right input creates most of the output. Selected effort creates almost all of the rewards.
Right. And what I heard in that is that not everything is created equally, in spite of what you think, right? And you guys can get that book. You can talk about it. You can read it, download it, right? But another thing that he said is like it works just like gravity, whether you understand it or not.
It's true.
It's true. If I pick up this book and drop it on the ground, it's going to fall. I don't have to understand gravity for gravity to work. And so, with that being said, Randy,
Remember what Jason also mentioned though was that when you have a problem or there's certain things you need to face within your life, you're either going to spend time, you're going to spend money, and you will spend whichever one you value the least.
yes,
I just feel like it just adds to how we've been talking about focus and the one thing and
it
understand
all
moving.
connects.
It all
It
connects.
all connects, and I trust that is the overall resounding message from that you take away from this, though, is that it all connects, and how you do one thing is probably how you do most things. So if you're not focused, you're not going to be focused when it's time for me to create an opportunity for you, right? And
Mm,
I look for that. And most we talk about gatekeeping, and people talk about gatekeeping like, oh, they didn't tell me, they didn't read the book to me on the show. That's not gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is not telling you the truth that you need to hear so you can get through the gate. So if I'm telling you that your lack of focus is what's preventing you from being invited to the table, then sweetheart, then you've got to change the way that you think about multitasking, because it may be great in working for you in your world, but on the big scale, where you say that you want to thrive and do more than survive, you need to understand that it looks like you're very distracted, and professional people are turned off by unprofessional partners,
mm,
and that's just what it is.
mm,
Like, we it's just what it is,
mm.
right? So listen, I had a great conversation today with She Can Work. She had an amazing opportunity just to build out your business and certifications. And one of my takeaways in that, because it was a 4-hour certification class, was I need to get somebody to do this for me because I don't have the bandwidth to. I understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
I'm a very smart person. I have understood this presentation very well, but my biggest takeaway was get somebody else to do it, right? And that's what successful people to do. So I just wanted to thank She Can Work, really just kind of for spearheading the conversations in this show. And Randy, you want to add anything else?
Continue to choose your counsel wisely and understand that you are powerful beyond measure. And do not allow other people's limitations to rub off on you just because they have determined that is what they want out of life. That does not mean that you need to succumb to it. So continue to operate at a high level and you owe it to yourself.
Absolutely. If you liked what we talked about, be sure to go ahead and subscribe. Share this with somebody you know, somebody that you don't. Also, keep us posted on what you guys want to hear us talk about. And if something we said about a career in real estate, it sparked your curiosity, whether you already have your license or are thinking about getting your license, we would love to have a conversation with you. Please just follow the instructions in the description box. You can all follow us on social media. And Randy, I think that's it till next week.
Let's get it. Thank you for your time and attention.
All right, we'll talk to you guys soon.